earlier this month, Tucker Carlson tweeted the following. He says, "Whatever you think of tariffs, it's clear that now is the worst possible time for the United States to participate in a military strike on Iran. We can't afford it. Thousands of Americans would die. We'd lose the war that follows. Nothing would be more destructive to our country, and yet we're closer than ever thanks to unrelenting pressure from neocons. This is suicidal. Anyone advocating for conflict with Iran is not an ally of the United States, but an enemy." Well, Ben Shapiro thought he had to respond to that, and he responds by sort of subtly hinting that Tucker may be a Qatari agent of sorts.
The false binary that has always been created around the Middle East is that if you hit a target in the Middle East, full-scale war erupts, and thousands and millions die, full-scale invasion of Iran. Barack Obama used to say the same crap, and it isn't true. How do I know it's not true? Because literally, Donald Trump did it in his first term. He took out Qasem Soleimani, who's the head of the IRGC's terror mechanism, and nothing happened. That is what happened. Nothing. And this idea that a strike on the Iranian nuclear facilities would result in what? Iran attacking Hawaii? Widespread war? Nope. But again, these false binaries that Tucker likes to posit effectively act as cover for the Iranian regime. Because again, if the idea is that you have to let Iran go nuclear rather than striking their nuclear facilities, thus endangering extraordinary elements of importance to the American national security apparatus, ranging again from Saudi and UAE to Israel, the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, and all the rest, the Straits of Hormuz. If that's the idea, well, you may as well just surrender the Middle East to the Iranians now, which of course, I don't know what Tucker's feelings are on that. He was interviewing the Emir of Qatar. Qatar is essentially a cutout front for the Iranian regime. And he was treating them with great care, shall we say. President Trump obviously does not follow that same belief system. Neither does the rest of the administration. Thank God.
Okay, so, more intra-party conservative fighting here between the woke right and the non-woke right, depending on your interpretation of things. You can say who's who. But this issue did come up when Tucker was on the Megyn Kelly show, and here he takes some not so subtle jabs at Ben Shapiro, implying he is loyal to a foreign country, whatever that country might be.
Tool of Iran. I'm a freaking Episcopalian. I am not Shiite as a tool of Qatar, who's like one of our closest allies in the world. The largest American air base in the Middle East is in Qatar. They're a close ally of ours. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're taking Qatari money. I've never taken a dollar from any government. I mean, are you joking? And these are people who are acting on behalf of a foreign government telling me that I'm unpatriotic. And I try not to get like crazy angry about it, but it's hard because you see these people, Ben Shapiro or these shills like come out and like attack you personally because
he was bashing you just this week.
But it's what's so infuriating is like I'm 56 in 2 weeks, so I've watched this. I was in Iraq. Like I'm not an expert on anything, and I would never claim expertise. I try not to claim expertise I don't have. But I have a good memory, and I was there for a lot of this stuff. And I have unresolved rage for the reasons I just explained. No one's apologized, no one's repented, no one's changed. And so to attack me is I'm selling out my country, which is the only thing I care about. I don't have another passport. I have no plans to go anywhere. I could certainly afford to move some other country. I'm not. I live directly across from my parents' grave and I'm never leaving. So to attack me as a shill for another country, when you yourself are shilling for another country, it's almost too much for my tiny brain to deal with, actually. How much better it would be if someone like Ben Shapiro, who's smart, and I don't think Ben Shapiro is like evil, I'm not attacking him as a person, but how much better would it be if he could just sit and say, okay, here's what I think would happen if we joined an attack on Iran, or stop lying to me and telling me that we're going to defeat the Houthis. The whole point of getting involved in a war with the Houthis is to suck us into a war with Iran. Like, I know that.
Yeah, on whose behalf? On Israel's behalf. And that is the major difference between now and when the Soleimani strike happened, is now you have the Greater Israel Project in overdrive, moving at warp speed. And they are the ones pushing us into it, which means once you do it, whatever we want to say, it will be Israel calling the shots, because we're not going to leave them to fend for themselves if they agitate a major conflict that will inevitably draw us in. There's no question it would draw us in, whatever our public posture may or may not be in these talks or to the microphones. So obviously the stakes are much higher now, and he calls it out right there. The guy is doing this on behalf of a foreign country. He's shilling for a foreign country. That's clearly what this is about. It is clearly not in the national interest to agitate war with Iran. So here's one of the, I guess, see, we're calling the Zionist right the woke right, because that's what they are. So Tucker Carlson has to be one of the most dumbest and most gullible humans on the planet. He cries conspiracy when accused of being a shill for Qatar. But why is he surprised when he says things like this? So here he is. Here, this is his big own.
Israel, because it's an ally.
I don't even know what those words mean. I'm just saying my principle
they're
is
an ally, right? I mean, they both.
I don't know what that means to be an ally.
Qatar is like one of our closest allies in the world. The largest American air base in the Middle East is in Qatar. They're a close ally of ours.
Okay. Now, as of 2022, major non-NATO ally designation will enhance U.S.-Qatar relationships. So, yes, they're considered a non-NATO ally. Nations with the MNNA designation are eligible to, among other things, host U.S. war reserve stockpiles of materials inside their countries. Private companies within those nations are also eligible to bid on contracts to maintain, repair, or overhaul U.S. military equipment. Those nations can also enter into agreements with the United States for training. More than 15 nations, including but not limited to Australia, Bahrain, Japan, Kuwait, and the Philippines, are currently designated as major non-NATO allies by the United States. This is from the Department of Defense's website just in 2022. But Tucker's troll game is pretty good, and he decided to go here with guest Matt Walsh. This is an interesting exchange here, timed pretty funnily, I have to say, given the whole brouhaha between him and Ben Shapiro. Matt Walsh, obviously employed at the Daily Wire or contracted by the Daily Wire, whatever their arrangement is. So here is Tucker Carlson asking Matt Walsh, hey, how about that Dave Smith versus Douglas Murray debates?
Of the debate between Dave Smith and Douglas Murray on Rogan a couple of weeks ago. Did you watch that? And what
I did. I watched. I ended up watching. I wasn't planning on.
I did. Thanks for bringing that up. That's not putting me in an awkward position at all. Really appreciate that.
Watching the whole thing, but I watched the whole thing. I'm constantly hearing from the peanut gallery demanding that I kind of give my verdict or my take on Israel and Israel versus Palestine and all this kind of stuff. And I have given my take, and my take is I don't care that much. I'm not just America first. I'm an American chauvinist in that I only care about my own country. I honestly don't care about other countries. I wish the people of other countries well. I think they all have a right to defend themselves, and they should. I think that if you can't defend yourself as a nation, or if you can't survive without being propped up by another government, say ours, then you shouldn't exist as a country.
Oh, wait. See, Tucker says, wait. What do you mean?
Wait. If you can't exist without being propped up by another government, say ours, you shouldn't exist. Yeah. Israel cannot exist without being propped up by the United States.
You think so?
Its nuclear program came from the United States. Its weapons come from the United States. Its economy is supported by the United States. I'm not attacking Israel. I'm just saying, in point of fact, I think that's true. I mean, Israel thinks it's true, or they wouldn't have armies of lobbyists and influencers in the United States. Bibi wouldn't have shown up twice in the past 3 months.
From my perspective, it seems like they can handle themselves quite fine. But
I have to say that because YouTube payments don't go out till the 21st of the month, and so I gotta keep the shit to shoe level at the Daily Wire for the next 3 weeks.
Any country, if there is any country out there that fundamentally cannot exist without being subsidized by American taxpayers, then not only should that country not exist, but that country already does not exist.
It's weird, man. It's weird. I mean, Tucker definitely was trolling there by asking him that.
Some people say that you're Mike Figueredo's alter.
Yeah, right.
Is there any truth to that?
Yeah. Some people say you're the Bizarro World version of Mike Figueredo. No, I mean, I think he was definitely trolling there by bringing that up. And it's funny that Matt Walsh says, well,
yeah,
he brings it up
he knew
in
the spot he's
context.
putting him in. Tucker's a smart guy.
Of course, he knew he was trolling there. Pretty well done. But, it's just a curious answer that Walsh gives there. Well, because he answers that in answering specifically a question about Israel. Well, I think, if you can't exist without our help, you shouldn't exist. And then Tucker says, well, Israel couldn't. Well, I think it does. I mean, what are you walking that back? No, this is really
he totally pussied out.
He totally pussied out. He totally wimped out because Tucker actually went there and actually said, okay, well, let's get you on the record saying, a statement that would surely land you in very hot water over at the Daily Wire. But
he has indicated in text, that's interesting because we showed this in a segment about this whole thing. He did in text because somebody said, well, what about Israel?
Yep.
And he said that includes Israel too. But here he decided not to triple down on that.
Yeah, well, I think that is why Tucker went there. And now you got, Dave Rubin trying to facilitate a debate between Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson. No, this is just the latest development in a rift on the conservative side. It's really the division that this issue is sowing amongst the MAGA faithful is very positive in my view. I mean, the fact that you have Candace Owens coming out saying, I don't recognize this administration anymore, that's big. She's obviously much more outspoken on this than Tucker is. Tucker ultimately kind of takes the position that Walsh is kind of weaseling into there, which is, hey, I only care about America. I don't really care about this very much. But when you start walking this into a broader foreign policy conversation, and it's already a pretty damn broad one, I think, but when you start talking about war with Iran, what Tucker says there, I mean, I take him at his word. I think he was very affected by the Iraq war because he used to host that Crossfire show on CNN where he was spouting the Bush talking points, as loud as he could for a long time there, and he wound up with a lot of egg on his face, and I think that definitely stuck with him. I think he's very wary about supporting these conflicts now. And now you're seeing a real rift open up. And this is why I think the Daily Wire is tanking, because I think on the left, obviously, you're seeing, an emphatically pro-Palestine faction start to form. And on the right, you're starting to see people one by one saying, well, I can't really go along with this if this zealous support for Israel is just take it or leave it. That's what Candace Owens is getting into. Now, Tucker's not there yet, but I think a war with Iran might push him there. And so that is what makes the stakes of this pretty high and getting higher.
Yeah, with Tucker, it's a very mixed picture because he has done segments that just shamelessly shill for the administration.
Yes.
Does there come a point where he's willing to cross that Rubicon, where he becomes persona non grata around the Oval Office? We shall see.
Right. That's the big question, because how long can you toe that line? He interviewed Munther Isaac, the pastor in Bethlehem, which is a great interview. Okay, so at what point do you have to make a break? It seems like you can straddle that line pretty comfortably until and unless a war with Iran starts. Like, if they actually push it to that point, is that going to be what it takes to get this next wave of, quote unquote, populist anti-war MAGA people to break away? And I hope that the administration sees some risk in that. I hope that is why Mike Waltz was pushed out. I hope it's not over Signalgate. I hope it's because he was an Iran hawk and they had to show him the door. I don't know that that's the reason. I don't give the Trump administration the benefit of any doubt, obviously. But I hope that's the reason. I hope that message is coming through. I hope as his approval rating goes down, it becomes clear to them that a war with Iran is not doable. It is a non-starter. Your support will implode. I mean, you could be talking about a historic collapse in favorability if we end up in a shootout with Iran.
Sure. I mean, given
20s,
that he's
20s approval rate.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
With where he's gotten to in the first 100 days,
Yeah.
what, around 40?
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be down around 22, 23.
Yeah. So as much as I do wish Tucker were a lot stronger on the Israel question, I hope that kind of resistance to a war with Iran is enough to catch their ear and realize and make them understand you just can't do it. You can't do it.
As I have said many times, from my experience with the whole MAGA base, the parts that we overlap with and the parts that are more chuddish, the whole thing, most of them are not down with that Israel shit. Most of them, the vast majority of them. They go along with it because the boss tells them to. That's it. I don't think there's as you can see from Candace's audience, which is particularly devoted to her, I must say, particularly passionate about her. There's no cost to Tucker to take that position, but there's a personal cost. I don't think there's a cost to him as a podcaster. I think it would just increase his status in a lot of that base. But yeah, man, I mean, at that point, you are outcast from that whole crew.
Yeah. And at that point, there's really no turning back. Like, if this becomes a deal breaker for you, you're almost forced into the post-duopoly space for good. Because to crawl back into the duopoly is to compromise on this issue. And given the horror of the issue, it's hard to compromise on that and save face.
Please clap.